Dear friends, hello. I have a serious conversation to have with you. Right now, this very week, we're experiencing the final push, an aggressive, intense surge from Mars, which is moving through the last degrees of Leo. And this is its last chance to break in forcefully, to cut through Gordian knots, to resolve all situations. And this is an extremely traumatic time. Right now, all this week and up until Monday, June 16th, right up until the evening of Monday, June 16th, there will be this grinding tension from Mars. Aries feel it the most, of course, maybe Scorpios and definitely Leos. Well, maybe the fire signs and the remaining fire sign, Sagittarius. These are the zodiac signs that can behave in the most explosive way right now. And in this video, I'd like to talk about how this period will play out, how it will affect each of us in a bit more detail. On one hand, below, under the video, I'll leave links to discussions about this key tense period, which I've already talked about and recorded an analysis of in the monthly videos for each zodiac sign. So basically, you can find a more detailed story for your sign below the video. In this video, I'm not going to insert clips like I've been doing for the past couple of months. Instead, I'll just talk in my own words about what's happening right now and how best to handle this aggressive influence of Mars. Because throughout all of May and until June 16th, Mars gives us a good opportunity, but sometimes it acts very aggressively, and you need to know how to take advantage of this chance. On one hand, people are fighting here, people are ready to get into conflicts tooth and nail, to clash and sort out a lot of issues. There are a lot of overlaps happening, one planet over another, then a third, then a fourth. It feels like at some point it just blows your mind. This is also the most accident-prone time when it comes to driving. It's really easy to fall here, like off a bike or some kind of scooter. It's also very easy to get into some unpredictable situation while driving a car. And in this video, on one hand, I'll briefly go over the zodiac signs, but it's mostly about just discussing what's happening here and how to deal with it. First of all, it would be very helpful to outline some context in which all of this is happening. Throughout the entire year of 2025, we basically have several main dominant themes. From January to April, we can say that Saturn in Pisces is the dominant influence. There are tough challenges, a sense of psychological pressure, stress. Ideally, this is a time for working with psychologists, with emotions, and all our energy is turned inward, it's inside us. Basically, we can't really focus on any external projects and are mostly engaged in internal self-reflection. And this is something I've often described as being like hedgehogs in the fog, just wandering around looking for something. Sometimes it's a little horse, sometimes not, sometimes a deer, sometimes a crocodile. In other words, it felt like there was a zoo of strange stories going on up until April, and most importantly, that zoo was inside us. That is, we could just be lying around, not really doing anything, but still feel exhausted from it. And this was connected to the influence of that watery energy, the sign of Pisces and Saturn. Starting in May, the situation changes dramatically. The second main stage of 2025 begins. This stage is associated with outward, manifest energy and dynamics directed toward the external world. Here, during May and the first half of June, our ability to take decisive action awakens. We literally wake up with the ability to tear off this veil of sleep, this haze of confusion and murkiness, the state in which we wandered for so long like hedgehogs in the fog. At this point, it feels like we've already been led somewhere by our own comrade Susanin. There may have been a sense that the darkness was no longer impenetrable, but starting in May, this intense action begins. And it's directly connected, first and foremost, to the influence of Mars, which has moved into the sign of Leo. On one hand, this is a very aggressive time, and it brings a lot of work, sometimes to the point of exhaustion, because it feels like try to accomplish in these 1.5 months throughout May and the first half of June, everything that hasn't been done over the past year or even longer. In other words, it feels like Mars is trying to make up for lost time with a flurry of events, tasks, and responsibilities, and it boldly rushes into battle to tackle external challenges. We stop overthinking things internally, we stop getting emotional, we stop being those constantly anxious, empathetic people, and life literally forces us to grab that legendary sword and start fighting for our lives, our priorities, and our goals. And first and foremost, this awakening during May and June is felt, of course, by the fire signs, but really everyone else can also sense that the fog is gradually lifting and the world is starting to become clearer. And for me, in my yearly forecasts, this was the main metaphor. Until April, we're in a foggy, gloomy nighttime space. Starting in May, the dawn begins to break. And this dawn, this sun rising above the horizon, starts to burn away the fog, this uncertainty. It's as if we feel that life around us, the whole veil is lifting, just like the fog dissipates and our eyes are opening. It's as if we're coming out of that forest where we wandered with Susanna for several months, stepping out onto the edge or the border of the forest, and a road begins to unfold before us. And here during May and June, many people finally gain a sense of a clear path. Where to go, why to move forward, right? And what for and how. And now this period that we're seeing, which is unfolding around June 13th and continuing up to the 16th, it's like the final blow. Well, I almost said in the province, what I really meant was it's like a powerful resonant strike on a great gong, one that is meant to shake the world to its very core, to shake off all this accumulated dust, to shake off everything that's become stagnant, unmoving, and to create some truly powerful, new, strong, and forceful impulse, a surge of fresh energy and momentum. I'm walking down some road, choosing a new path. But in some ways, it seems to me that this period in mid-June feels more like getting hit hard on the drum, in the sense of getting hit on the head. It's pretty abrupt, it's provocative, it literally forces you to shake off whatever's left. All that dust, all that grime that's built up, you could even say over the past few years. So that's why this period is, well, very revolutionary, especially in terms of these powerful moods. But continuing with the context of the whole year, I want to add that right now we're at this moment. It's like we've come out to the edge of the forest or stepped out of the woods, and we're starting to see the paths ahead where we can go next. It's worth making a note here as well, because the entire year of 2025, in some ways, is kind of similar to the COVID year, 2020, when many people lost their sense of direction. There were major planetary shifts, new big cycles began, and a lot of people were left in a daze, sometimes for months, sometimes for half a year. Because by the time you find a new job, by the time you adjust to new realities and figure out where to go next, some people just end up going nowhere. And that's why May and the first half of June were so significant and powerful. They literally forced people to make some kind of leap out of the swamp, even if it was into the unknown, maybe even into nowhere at all. But still, any kind of movement is better than the stagnation that was there before April. And really feeling your own path, this new direction, maybe for some people, it's still difficult right now. Some have already started to sense it, to outline it for themselves during May and June. And next, the third key program of the year kicks in. Here, on June 17th, Mars moves into the sign of Virgo, and then in July and August, Uranus moves into the sign of Gemini. These are two planets that bring about super learning, exceptional achievement, and an overload of the mind, its ability to adapt to new changes. Because it's one thing when planets are just out there and something is simply happening. But the second point is, how do we understand this? How do we master a new specialty? How do we fit everything that's happening into our minds? And it's precisely this adaptive component, the ability to engage with new realities, to understand them mentally, and to take on something new, like mastering a new specialty that this third element gives us now. From mid-June until the end of August, and maybe even throughout September, we are exceptionally capable of learning. If you have the opportunity to enroll in some educational program, to fill your mind with new knowledge, to start learning a new profession, this is simply the perfect time. This summer, it might seem like, yes, it's summer, time to relax and unwind, but our minds are working so intensely, so actively, that peace is just a dream for us. Even if you spend the whole summer working at your dacha or in the garden, you might discover a bunch of apps in the App Store or online that help you figure out the best ways to plant, how to grow things with hydroponics, and so many other new things to try. It's as if the bridge is constantly carried away. Your eyes light up at the thought that, oh, you can do it this way here, or that way there. And one of the main things about this summer is the breakthrough in our mindset that comes from adopting artificial intelligence tools. I know I've been going on and on about it in all my videos, but honestly, now, in the second half of June and continuing through July and August, this is exactly the time when, if you've wanted to dig into this topic, it will be the perfect time and opportunity. Mars will help with this, as it moves into the sign of Virgo on the 17th. And Uranus will also contribute to this, as it moves into the sign of Gemini during the summer, in July and August. That's when a completely new reality will begin. So, on the one hand, we were asleep until the end of April, and in May and June we woke up, practically stunned by this blow to the head. Where do we run? What do we do? I don't know. At the very least, just jump out of this swamp. Then, throughout July and August, I frantically absorb a ton of new information, learning something new. Then, in October and November, there's a special atmosphere there, with a lot of spicy stories because of the Black Moon, which is currently in the sign of Scorpio and is connected to sensual, romantic, and jealous provocations. And there, the emotional whirlwind of jealousy and feelings, maybe even involving love triangles or something like that, will be so intense that your emotional life will turn into the wildest Brazilian soap opera starting around October or November. It'll be so dramatic, you won't even know what hit you. You'd never have thought that in your own life, in your everyday reality, this kind of soap opera story would suddenly begin. At the same time, there are plenty of harmonizing, pleasant, and positive moments connected to Jupiter and the sign of Cancer, which will help smooth things out and bring some harmony to the situation. But it's like a spicy Indian dish. On the one hand, it's delicious and makes your mouth water, but on the other, your eyes are watering from the heat and all those intense, vivid sensations. When you're eating it, you end up sweating all over, and you're just like, phew. That's the kind of state you'll be in throughout the fall, October, November, and, in some ways, even December. That's the general outlook for the whole of 2025. On the one hand, just so you understand, this is the key moment, the drumbeat that's happening right now, these days, in mid-June. Like, if May still didn't wake you up, if the fog hasn't cleared for you yet, then right now, in mid-June, it's like in cartoons, when you bump your head on the table and you start seeing stars and little birds spinning around. And it feels like either I'm about to, well, wake up from this sleep, or... Well, in short, a lot of people are going to get shaken up right now. Honestly, there are probably still some who, even in May and June, didn't get that crucial kick in the pants. Yeah, maybe you'll get that kick in the next few days. It's possible. That can't be ruled out either. But honestly, I'd compare this to 2020, when a lot of people actually dropped out of their old reality for almost half a year, not understanding where to go or what to do next, and only gradually started adapting to the new reality. In the same way, this year might feel for many like a kind of tremor, as if the old reality is shaking like an earthquake, but the new house hasn't been built yet, and something new is only just beginning to take shape. Within June, there are also a couple of very important dates that symbolize a glimpse into the future. It's also very important to mention them, because on the 9th, around June 9th, and then especially on June 27th, these are moments when consciousness literally catches some prophetic things, whether through dreams, through conversations, or when someone just puts into words an important idea about how I will live from now on, what life and reality will be like going forward, and what we will do next, how we will live, and so on. And so, if you're still feeling disoriented, unsure of where to go, what to do, or how to proceed, try to catch what thoughts, dreams, and processes happen to you around the 9th and around June 27th. These could also be answers that will help you gain clarity. That's the general overview of this tense moment. And Mars is now moving through the last degrees of Leo until the 16th, and it might be trying to push you toward the issue, like, come on, understand already. Like a drumbeat, with the feeling that reality is vibrating. But let me briefly go over the zodiac signs. On one hand, this is the key shocking event in the middle of the month. I mentioned it in my yearly forecasts, and it also came up in the June monthly forecasts. You'll find the links in the description. You can also check your own sign for more details. Right now, I'll just quickly go through the zodiac signs. And for Aries, for example, this period is exactly what I just described. It's about being ready to make a final, tough, bold, reckless, and at times risky leap when it comes to resolving certain issues. In other words, just showing audacity and courage. For Taurus, this period from June 11th to 16th can be a significant and important turning point in terms of finances and relationships. That is, either a partnership pushes you toward a major breakthrough from old, impossible situations, or it breaks old relationship patterns, prompting you to boldly and recklessly express yourself. So either this tension and the sound of the gong comes through your partner's influence on you, or some financial or work reality gets shaken up, reset, and changed during these dates. For Gemini, this extremely intense, eventful period from the 11th to the 16th. First and foremost, this is when the themes of collaboration, career, and professional partnerships change. It's as if, sudden, unexpected events happen that directly change the context of your career. What am I going to do next, and how am I going to do it? It's like there's this big shakeup, and if there was any confusion or uncertainty before, after this period it feels like, well, now everything is clear. For the Cancer sign, the period from the 11th to the 16th brings a lot of tough, tense moments and some kind of final blow. It might finish breaking something down, completely dismantle it, and then you'll have to build a new world from scratch. At the same time, this new world will most likely emerge for you under Jupiter in Cancer, and it will be quite a happy one. But here, there's this old reality. Be careful with this. Because here, just like in the story of the old man and the turnip, the old woman and the granddaughter, some little mouse might run by, flick its tail, and everything that was holding on until the very end will suddenly fall apart, change, and transform in an instant. For Leos, this period from the 11th to the 16th is like the last car of a departing train. That is, Mars has been in your sign since the beginning of May. And here up until the 16th, right now it's going through its last opportunities. Yes, these opportunities are conflict-ridden here, and at times it feels like everything is about to get blown apart. But this is the last moment to make a tough, unexpected, and principled statement about the things that matter most to you, to set things straight in a radical way, and sometimes even in a very rough manner, but to really push things through. It would probably be a good analogy here to mention that Donald Trump is a Leo ascendant. And here, in theory, his patience should run out, and the situation should reach some kind of fundamental final clarity. For Virgos, the upcoming period, well, actually not the upcoming period, but rather the current period, which specifically spans from June 11th to June 16th this year. So right now, during these particular days, you may notice certain influences or changes. First and foremost, it might be uncomfortable because there's a high risk of accidents, and plans related to foreign countries, travel, or education can change abruptly. People are very nervous and on edge. But most likely, Virgos will get through this period quite smoothly, relying on their intuition and generally knowing how to avoid all these provocative situations. Again, you can find detailed information for each zodiac sign. Below the video, there will be links to my yearly and monthly programs about this event. So if you want, you can check out more details. For the Libra sign, this period from the 11th to the 16th is especially notable because the theme of partnership is radically transformed, maybe through some abrupt actions, maybe through tense situations, but it's as if the energy is just bursting out like a volcano. And so these powerful bursts of volcanic energy at some point just push the situation to the extreme. And as a result, things reach a kind of final, clear, conclusion, a summing up of everything. For the Scorpio sign, this whole tense period from the 11th to the 16th brings, on the one hand, the theme of I'm pushing something through, pushing it with force, and in some cases even with a bit of coercion. I just need to push through this or that task, this or that project, even if it means working to the point of exhaustion, with my nerves already frayed and on edge. But try your best to see things through to the end, to completion, to a proper finish. This adrenaline-fueled drive that's pushing you right now, because on the 17th, you'll be strongly shifted to completely different tasks and directions. And right now, you're like a light bulb glowing with energy. For Sagittarians, from the 11th to the 16th, there's this opportunity to push through to the very end in any situations related to real estate, self-fulfillment, or financial matters. I'm forcefully pushing through to get what I want, to gain some recognition, to bring the situation to its boiling point, to some kind of extreme limit. And it really feels like I'm accomplishing a heroic feat right now in this very moment. It's extreme, dangerous, sometimes with sudden swings, and at times right on the edge of breaking down. But I think you'll manage to get everything sorted out here. Here, intuition really helps Sagittarians a lot. For the sign of Capricorn, from the 11th to the 16th, there are some tough moments here, because Capricorns like everything to be methodical and calculated. But here there's a lot of unpredictability and chaos. At the same time, though, despite all this chaos, there's also a big plus. Along with the chaos comes a lot of clarity, because a series of sudden, very intense events in people's behavior really shed light on many things. By the 17th, everything is clear. What's necessary and unnecessary have fallen away. What's necessary remains. For Aquarius, from the 11th to the 17th, the main upheaval here may be connected to relationships, work projects, and everyday life during these days gets turned completely upside down. So basically, whatever was happening on the 9th then gets flipped on the 10th, flipped again on the 11th, and then again on the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. Every day it's just thunder crashing and lightning striking. And you get the feeling that, honestly, who knows what's going to happen tomorrow at all? And all these transformations are most likely happening in the area of relationships, with a lot of tension, as well as in work and professional fulfillment. But on the 17th, when it arrives, it will feel like the storm has finally passed. For Pisces, during the period from the 11th to the 16th, Pisces is probably the main sign that can get through this time fairly quietly and calmly. But if you're somehow connected to social media, blogging, or being in the public eye, there could be some vivid, powerful, explosive situations here. Both opportunities for success and chances where you might be walking a fine line. And in general, the risk of injuries and accidents is also quite high. So just be careful, Pisces. And basically, that's all I have for now. Again, I have forecasts on my sponsor channel where you can check predictions based on your own birth date, and I'll list all the benefits of sponsorship there. You can subscribe and see what forecasts are available specifically for your birth date. There are also a lot of educational materials available in the sponsorship format. In general, we've set up a chat with artificial intelligence there, which helps you get answers to any question within a few seconds. So join us. There's early access to videos there. What gets posted publicly on certain dates might be available there right here and now. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Bye-bye. Subscribe to stay updated.